Tuesday, April something, 26th, 27th. Huh. Hey everyone, it's Natalie, also known as Knitty Natty. Welcome to episode 101 of the Love in Stitches podcast. Today is Tuesday, April something, 26th, 27th. Huh. What is the actual date? Tuesday, April 27th, 2021. It's a nice, beautiful sunny day here in New York City. It's about 60 degrees right now. Later on, we're gonna go out and take a walk. I'm so excited because it's just so beautiful and nice. I'm so used to it being like hot in April and May, being like 85 degrees, and I am loving the transitional weather. Super, super nice. I love it. It's great. I know it's gonna be hot and humid here in the summer, but it won't last as long as Texas summers, is what I am hoping. We'll see. You'll have to check back with me in like December and see how I like the weather here. Well, I can't believe it's been 101 episodes. I know last week was episode 100, which is super exciting, but I feel like for the next 99 episodes, I'm still gonna be excited to say episode 100 something. Thank you guys all so much for all of your kind comments on the last episode, just telling me congratulations, or that you've been around since the beginning, or you watched since the beginning, that you're excited for 100 more episodes. Me too. I'll say this again later, but I'll just go ahead and say it right now. We have a giveaway for episode 100 that I'm going to announce in the next episode, episode 102, because I can't draw it yet because I said I would close it on Thursday, a week after the last episode, and it's only Tuesday. I'll say it again in the news, but just wanted to get that out of the way in case you're curious, or you don't get all the way through the episode and you're like, did I miss the winner? You didn't miss it. It's coming, episode 102. Okay, I have some finished objects this week, so let's dive right in. Oh, actually, let me show you real quick if I can angle this. Little toaster. Hey, buddy. He's hanging out with us. You could also see like the bubble wrapped art that's still propped up against the wall. Eventually, I'll have some art here above the bed. I think this is going to be like the best place for me to podcast, but I might jazz it up. You know, today I've got the shades down, which is kind of a shame because it's fun when you can see outside, but it's like too bright and everything. I don't know. I'll get it all figured out. Let's talk about knitting, right? Okay, I have a finished object to show you. These are a pair of socks that I knit for my husband's friend, Brian. I don't think he watches this, so these are Brian's socks if you're looking for the project on Ravelry. This is the first time in forever that I have knit a pair of socks for a man. Kent, my husband, he doesn't really wear like he's a barefooter. He likes to be barefoot around the house. He doesn't really wear socks unless he has to, and he'll just wear like athletic socks and his tennis shoes. So I don't knit socks for him because he wouldn't use them, and that's 100% okay. I really don't knit socks for my brothers because they haven't asked for it. One of my brothers wears a 14 shoe, so I am really glad that he hasn't asked for socks yet. If he does, I'll knit him a pair, but he hasn't yet. So anyway, I don't have men to knit socks for, and so I just haven't in a long time. So this was kind of an interesting experiment to make these socks. But first, let's talk about the yarn. I have actually gotten lots of questions about this yarn. I guess you guys are really liking it for men's socks, but it's nothing special in that it's not an indie dyed yarn. It is Cascade Heritage Silk Paints, and the paints is just like their line of, it looks like hand-dyed yarn, but it's not. This is something that came out like before the indie dyed thing was really popular. I remember because I was working in a yarn store then. I was 16 years old, and anyway, that's too much of a story. But anyway, it is Cascade Heritage Silk Paints, 85% wool, 15% silk. So instead of nylon, this has silk. And then the colorway, oh, you know what? Last time I said the colorway was 9927, which is not a lie, but the shop that I got it at, Knitty City here in New York, they had others, if you want to call them and get some of it. They named it Dark Forest. I'm pretty sure Cascade does name their colors, they just don't put them on the label for some reason. Again, this is before the indie dye movement, and before everyone knew you could get people to buy more stuff if you named it something really clever or just told the inspiration. Dark Forest, that sounds way better than 992 whatever. Okay, so for these socks, I started them at the toe because I wanted to have, I didn't know if I was gonna need like, I thought I could get away with a skein basically, but I didn't know if I would need the full skein, whatever. So I decided to start at the toe, make sure I at least got a foot that was big enough, and then I could knit the leg as long as needed. What's funny is I don't have sock blockers for socks this big, so you can see like they're completely off the end here. I thought better to get the heel on here nice and get the leg and foot, and then I just let the rest of it kind of like come off the end. That's how I blocked them. But yeah, so I started at the toe. I ended up doing 64 stitches. When I first cast these on, I started with 72. Way too big. I used Kent as a model to try them on. And so I was really happy that I could do it with 64 stitches. My own socks are 60, so that's not that much more, but it does take a lot longer. 64 stitches, I can't remember exactly how many rounds that I did. I did add it to my Ravelry project page information. I did a Fish Lips Kiss heel. For the leg, I ended up doing, I think, 80. It's either 60, I think it's 60 rounds of stockinette, 20 rounds of ribbing, therefore 80 for the entire leg. Now, on me, this would be like coming up my leg super far. On my husband and on his friend, it doesn't come up like super far, but it is good for like a dress sock and everything. So I'm really pleased with how these turned out. I'm actually gonna go ahead and take them over and ship them to him so he can get them for his birthday. So I think that's going to be really exciting. I think he will like them a lot. By the way, this is another question that I get sometimes is, what kind of bind off do you do for a toe up sock that's stretchy but doesn't have too much flare? My favorite kind of bind off, I don't know where I learned it from. It's not mine. I didn't make it up, but I do have it in all of my tutorials. So I'll make sure to link it for you guys. It is like the easiest thing to do, but it creates such a nice stretchy bind off, and it's not Jenny's surprisingly stretchy bind off. That one for me creates like a flared edge, and it just didn't work for me, but this one's great. All you do is you follow the ribbing pattern, you work 2 stitches, so in my case it's a 2x2. I knit 2 stitches, take the left hand needle and put it into the back of those stitches, and I'm sorry, left hand needle into the front, and then knit 2 together through the back loop. And then you're going to keep working like 1 more stitch. So work 1 more stitch and then knit 2 together through the back loop. The trick is that whenever you do a purl, do the purl and then move the yarn to the back. Always knit across the whole thing as you're binding off, but work the stitches in pattern. Confusing when I tell it like that, but I promise it's easy, and I'll have the tutorial down below if you want to try it out. You don't just have to use it for socks. It's great for like hats, sleeves, anything like that where you want to make sure you have some nice stretch there. So that's one finished object, and I have another one. It's a small one, but as a collective, it's like a big feat to finally have this finished. So the next thing I have finished are these. This is one of my patterns. It's the Tulle Kitchen Scrubby. I use these instead of sponges to wash and clean dishes. I love having them. They're the best. You can almost like hear they're made of tulle. I get those like 3-inch little things of tulle. You can get them, well, you used to be able to get them a lot easier. I used to be able to get them at Michael's, Joann's, and Hobby Lobby, but I know they're not as easy to get now, so check those places. If you can only find 6-inch tulle, you can cut it in half. I know some people said they've been able to cut it in half, like the whole tube with a knife. Not quite as easy as just having the 3-inch tulle, but it's still not too bad. So these are the simplest things to make. I use a J hook. It's only 3 rounds and uses half of a thing of 3-inch tulle. So super quick to make. But the story is I had so much of this tulle because it was such a great thing to make for gifts and people loved them that every time I would go to a craft store, I'd just buy like 1 or 2 if they were on sale, 3, 4 of them. So I had lots of colors. And when I started downsizing my yarn room, I guess it's been over a year, one of the things that was taking up so much space was all of these spools of tulle, because they're bigger than a ball band. They're like this big, and you know, anyway, they were taking up a lot of space. And so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna work my way through these. I'd rather have them finished and just store them like in a Ziploc bag under my kitchen sink, which is what I do now. I'd rather store them there than have these unfinished things. So I started working on them, and at some point I like stopped, and I had gotten down to like 2 or 3 things of tulle, and they were just sitting in a project bag with the crochet hook, with the tapestry needle to weave in the ends and everything for months. I mean, I started this project like a year ago. And so finally last week when I was getting all organized, I put all these unfinished projects that they're not even really whips because they weren't things that I was currently working on, but they kind of were. They were, you know, they're just like those unfinished things. I just wanted to finish them. So I decided I would slowly go through and pick one thing at a time and work on it until it's finished and just get it done. And this was going to be the quickest one. So on Sunday, when I was sitting with my insider group, we had our one of our knit togethers, and I was like, you know what? Somebody was working on some scrubbies. They were a little different than this, but I was like, I'm inspired. Let me go grab mine. Worked them all up, and then I got to put away the project bag, recycle the cardboard from the tulle, and be completely done finally with these. So that's the long story. I thought that was Toaster's tail for a second. It's just a sock blocker. But that's a long story for these. Finally done, super happy. I'm just gonna add these to my collection. The reason that you see partially black is I had a little bit of black from making some black scrubbies, and so I wanted to use that up. Kind of wish I hadn't, because when I went to make a third scrubby, I didn't have enough yarn. So I probably should have just done pink and then I could have just thrown away the extra black, but I didn't. So now I have a tiny baby scrubby. It's only 2 rounds instead of 3. So maybe I'll take this with me. My thought was maybe I can take it with me like when I go on trips, which I do frequently. I usually bring with me my coffee cups because I like them so much better than like using a hotel coffee cup. And so I'm like, I could bring that with me with my little thing of dish soap and this. I could just travel with it that way. So that might be happening. It's a good theory. Either way, I feel like I'm proud of myself for using up all that tulle. So there you go. Those are my finished objects for this week. Pretty awesome. I had a ton last week and now I have some this week. We'll see if I have any for next week. I'm on a pretty good roll here after having 4 months of the year not really feeling like I'm getting anything done. It's like I feel like I'm finally getting back to it, to being on top of everything, on top of my knitting. All right, let's look at some whips. So now my whip pile is much smaller now that I've finished lots of things, which is totally fine with me. We're about to finish up 1 month and go into a new month, and I always like to kind of, you know, at the end of every month, reevaluate what I'm working on and try to finish things up and get ready to start new things for the new month. For big projects, I don't worry as much about that, but for smaller projects, I do. Example, socks. Okay, so here's my current sock whip, my only sock whip now that those other ones are done. I have worked on them just a little bit since last week. There's my cute little waffle progress keeper. It has some butter on it. I've got my extra stitch markers on here for when I start doing the foot, which I have just started on. These are for me. They're cuff down, 60 stitches, 20 rounds of 1x1 ribbing, 40 rounds of stockinette, and a fish lips kiss heel. And now I'm working on the foot. For me, I do 65 rounds for my foot and a square toe. There you go. That's the secret sauce. So I'm working on these. I've already finished the first one. The story on these, I love this yarn. Long Dog yarn in the colorway Coral Crush. I picked these out right before I left Texas and cast them on while we were in the car on the road to New York. So these are my road trip socks. I think I finished the whole first one while we were on that trip, and then I needed to finish up those other socks, so these kind of went on the back burner, and now these are back in full progress. I would like to finish them by Friday, because Friday is April 30th. And then on May 1st, I can start a new pair of socks over the weekend. I don't even know what I'm gonna pick out yet, but it will be fun to just kind of, start something fresh for a new month. So that's kind of the goal there. Today is Tuesday. Yeah, it might happen. If I don't start a new pair of socks till Sunday or Monday, then that's perfectly fine too. But yeah, it's kind of nice to be back down to one sock project, and I can start a new one with the beginning of the month. So at the beginning of the year, I started doing the Rainbow Sock Along, or Rainbow Sock Chronicles. I can't remember which one that it's actually the hashtag is, but the goal was to make a pair of socks every month and do it in like rainbow color. But we started with pink, which is, my favorite. And I think now we're at like yellow or orange. I'm obviously not following that right now, but I'll have to see what May's color is, and maybe, just maybe, I can get back on board. We'll have to see. All right, next whip is a new cast on. I talked about it last week. I was ready to cast on something for spring, especially after finishing all of those projects, and I have just barely cast on my new spring sweater. So let's talk about the yarn first. I went to a new yarn shop. I actually went to several new yarn shops this past weekend, but when I went to the first shop, my goal was to get yarn for the summer sorrel. I'll put a picture of it in here. I am so excited to make this sweater. I have been like watching people make the sorrel sweater, and I love it, and then I didn't realize that there was a short sleeve version in fingering weight, which is my favorite. So I went into the shop and I wasn't sure, like, do I want to get one color or do I want to do a fade? There's an option. For me, I needed 3 skeins, and so I ended up getting a fade. So let's talk about these 3 yarns here. Oh, the brand is new to me. It's a New York City dyer. It's called Yarn Over New York, and I was really excited to get some New York City yarn for my first New York City cast on, right? The base of this yarn is called Times Square. It's a 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So let me get my colors sorted here. I am pretty sure, yes. Okay, so this first one, they're all from the same dyer, Yarn Over New York. This one is called Loyal. It's right there at the bottom. Font's a little tricky to read. That one is called Loyal. This one, the pink, is called Barbie Girl, or I'm a Barbie Girl. Yeah, I'm a Barbie Girl. And then this last one, it is a bright purple. It is called Bubblegum Dance. Super fun. Love those. Yarn Over New York. So here's what they all look like together. Let me get them snapped back in. I have these in my 3 skein float tote. I just dropped my needles on the floor. Let me get them all snapped back in. There we go. Perfect. And get my project. Okay. Have these in my 3 skein float tote, which is just a crochet bag. One of my patterns, I can link that too. It's a little dirty. I just washed my 5 skein one. Maybe I need to wash this one after I finish. Where did that come from? Okay. Oh, I knit a swatch. I knit a swatch to get gauge, but also to see what these would look like faded together. And here is my swatch. It's a little crazy looking because I did it like the fake swatching in the round. And so I cut those, and then this is what I got. So this is what my sweater is going to look like, top to bottom. It's going to be a real bright, real fun. Kent kind of helped me pick out these yarns because at first I really liked this one and thought I might do the whole thing in that, but then I was attracted to the pink and the purple and everything too. So had to go for all of it. All right, so here's what I have done so far. I have just joined in the round. So first of all, this is a paid for pattern, so I won't tell all the details, but I will tell you it starts with an I-cord cast on, which is such a nice start to a yoke. And so that took a little while to get cast on. And then you do some short rows, which I think are gonna be at the back. So I've only done the short rows and like 1 round, so I don't have much yet, but you can just barely see, is that the right side? Yeah, you can just barely see I've started to do those really cool they're called dip stitches, the things that radiate out, and I am so excited to keep working on these. They're so cool. I've only just done them once. I had a little trouble because I shouldn't have been doing this last night late. I know myself better than that, but of course I'm like so excited to start it that I wanted to go ahead and try the dip stitches. I went from the pattern instead of going to the video. The pattern actually explains everything really, really well. But if I had gone to the video, I would have not had this like moment of like, okay, I think the pattern might be wrong. I was looking up errata. I was trying to figure out what was happening. I was counting my stitches. I was looking back at what I had done before I finally figured out that it was my reading that was an issue. The pattern was perfectly fine. Of course it was, because so many people have made it and tested it. Anyway, so there was some time last night, about half an hour, where I was really confused. But I got it all figured out, and now I've got my first little go of dip stitches, and now I'm just working around before I can do my next one. So this pattern has a circular yoke, so I'll be increasing as I'm creating the yoke, and then eventually I will fade in the second color, which is going to be the pink. Fade in that second color, and then work most of the middle, and then fade in the purple and work the bottom. The sleeves, I believe, will be all pink. I haven't quite decided yet, but it's going to be bright and fun. I have a new stitch marker. It's all New York stuff right now because it's all new and fun, you know? I have a cute little handmade clay stitch marker. It's a little rat for New York City. It came in a set with some other things that I will show, or I will have shown. When will I show it? Oh, in next week's vlog. You're gonna love it. I can't wait. I'll tell you about it in a little bit, but it came in a set and it's super, super cute. So you're gonna love that. All right, I think that's all of the projects. So let's go ahead and go into some questions. If you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me. The #1 place to contact me if you have pattern questions is via email, natalie@knittynatty.com, and put pattern help in the subject. That just helps me know to get to you more quickly, because maybe you're needing help with my pattern or another pattern, but nobody likes it when they're waiting, like not knowing how to knit or crochet something, and so I will do my best to help you out. Second best place is on Ravelry in the Love and Stitches Ravelry group. That's linked below. And go to the Ask Me thread, and I will do my best to answer your question here on the podcast. Instagram DMs and Ravelry messages are not the best place to contact me at all. Sometimes I do get back to you, but if I'm not, it's nothing personal. It's just really hard to manage in those two places, for me at least. Okay, so let's answer some questions. The first one is from the Fiber Plant. Hi Natalie, I'm new to knitting and so glad I found your podcast. You have totally inspired me to get into sock knitting. Welcome to the dark side. I love hand-dyed yarn. However, some of the colors I love only come in 75-25, which is merino, nylon, and stellina yarn. I'm wondering if I use stellina yarn to knit my socks. Am I going to feel the itchiness from the sparkle? Thanks, Amelia. Okay, Amelia, that's a really good question. I too have been looking at yarns and realizing, oh, they only come with stellina in them. They're usually like the brightest, funnest colors, right? So I don't have any of my stellina socks to pull out, but I do have, because they're tucked far, far away, too hard to get out. But I do have this shawl. This is a crocheted pattern by Tony Lipsy, who's TL Yarn Crafts. It is the Flatiron Shawl, which I kind of realized when I was pulling it out, like how appropriate again for New York. It's like a New York themed podcast today. Flatiron Shawl, I've made 2 of these. I absolutely love them. Actually, I kind of want to make another one. They're the best. They're just like the perfect size, such a fun and easy project to do. And it's great because you can use your stash. I'm looking at mine right now. You can pick out 3 different yarns that you love that go together. Boom, done. It's a great pattern. Anyway, I picked this one out to show you because it is all stellina. Every single one of these is stellina. Always, it's hard to see on camera, the sparkle, but I promise you that it is. So I pulled this out to kind of feel the fabric because I'm not 100% sure if I've worn any of my socks that have stellina in them. I'll be honest about that. Because I think I have made some, but I have definitely worn this that has stellina in it. And I feel like your neck is probably pretty similar in sensitivity to like your feet, the bottom of your feet. I have never had an issue with itchiness when wearing the shawl, when working with it, anything. I've not noticed it one bit. And I think it's the same content, like the 5% stellina, because it's not overly sparkly, so I don't think it's any more than that. So based off of this alone, I would say you're not going to have problems with like itchiness if you make your socks out of stellina. Of course, it's going to be different for everyone and your own sensitivity, but I'm pretty sensitive to stuff like that, and that doesn't bother me at all. So give it a try. I don't think it's going to hurt. And if you have experience with this, let Amelia know. You can let her know on Ravelry or down in the YouTube comments on this video if you have experience knitting socks with stellina and if it bothers you or not. All right, the next question is from E.R. Ludovico, I think. Any suggestions for getting involved in test knits? I want to expand my skills and meet more knitters and designers. I think test knitting would be a great way to do so. And some other people said that they would be interested to hear about this too. So first thing is to know when people are asking for test knitters. So 2 suggestions on that. One, if you're on Instagram, which I highly suggest because many test knitters or designers are looking for test knitters that have public Instagram accounts. If you're on Instagram, follow some test knitting hashtags or crochet. So the hashtags you might want to follow are like hashtag test knitting, test knitters wanted, test knitters needed, knit test maybe, I don't know. There's a variety of hashtags that designers might use when they're looking for test knitters, and then you can just look through that hashtag, or sometimes it will come up like in your regular feed if you're on Instagram enough, but it might be more helpful to go search it kind of every day, and that's how you can find out about designers that are looking for test knitters. That's one easy way to do it. The other way I've heard, and I haven't done this personally, is that there are Facebook groups out there for both the testing side and the designing side, where designers can post that they're looking for test knitters and crocheters, and then you can apply through Facebook. I don't have any specific groups that I know of, but I feel like if you search for it, you would probably find a ton of them. So that's 2 ways to just find out about test knits. And the second part is like getting selected and building a relationship. It can be hard because a lot of times designers get so many people that apply, and you might see that the same people will test for a designer many, many times, and that's because the designer knows that they can rely on that person. There is a lot of like, it's a big deal to get picked for a test, and there's a lot of anxiety, I think, on both sides. Like the designer wants to make sure they pick people that are going to represent them well and also follow through on the commitment of test knitting itself. And then as a tester, you're like excited to get picked by somebody that you might admire, also get to like expand your audience because that designer might share your account. I mean, it's just exciting on both sides, and it can be, a tricky process. Feelings can sometimes get hurt, but I would just encourage you, if you're trying to apply for a test knitting or test crochet position and you're not getting picked, it's really not anything like about you personally, but I have some tips to help you stand out. So here they are. So I can only say from my own experience what I am looking for, but I have a feeling many designers are looking for the same thing. So number 1, make sure your social media looks good and looks knit led or knit themed. So I require public Instagram accounts for my test knitters and crocheters because you're not just there to test the pattern, you're also there as a representation of my business, Knitty Natty and Love and Stitches, and it helps when you are able to share that and other people can see that you've worked on it. If you have a private account, then nobody else can see your work, and so I can't share pictures of you creating my designs or anything like that. So having a public Instagram account, and then making sure your Instagram account actually looks like you knit or crochet. Sometimes I will, look at a test knitter, I'll go to their Instagram account and it's a personal page, which is fine, but they don't have any pictures of knitting or crochet at all. So I know that maybe they don't obviously post about knitting and crochet a lot, but it also doesn't let me see what they've made, how they take pictures of their knitting, how they'll take pictures of what they're making for me. And then I also know that people are not going to their page to look at knitting or crochet. So sometimes people will have two accounts. They'll have a personal page and a knit and crochet page. Even if you don't have a lot of followers, like that's not a big deal. It's more about being like themed for the task at hand, which is knitting and crochet. So if you only want to have one account, 100% fine. Just make sure it's public and start putting some knitting and crochet interspersed with other pictures that you have on your Instagram page. So that's pretty much it. That's really what I'm looking for, is just somebody that I know that will take good pictures, like already is kind of established as far as they post knitting and crochet content. The amount of followers you have is usually not a factor for me. So there you go. That's what I'm looking for. That might be the case for some other people as well. And that might help you get picked for a test knit. Now, once you're picked, make sure you were like vocal, asking questions, like being timely, all of that, as long as you like the designer that you're testing for and like enjoy the experience, because I guarantee you, if you are like a responsive and contributing test knitter, the next time that designer needs something, they're gonna pick you again, because like I love having those people that I can rely on and that keep coming back and testing for me, because I know they are already liking my patterns, they're gonna represent it well, and it's just like a fun, you know, group to knit and make along with. So there you go. That's all I have to say about test knitting. Hopefully I'll have a test crochet call here very soon, because I've just finished up a design. Okay, next question is from Gigi, Colorado. Let's see. I have a question which may seem elementary, but I would love your expert opinion. How do you weave in ends so that they don't pop out? I would love to have a foolproof technique for this. Thanks for all your hard work and what you do. Oh, well, thank you. So my favorite way to weave in ends for most things is going to be a zigzag, is kind of what I like to think of it. And essentially you go up, down, up, and it makes like a Z, but this way. So your stitches in your rows are going like this. This would be on the purl side, on the wrong side that you're not going to see. So I'll do this for socks, I'll do this for sweaters, I'll do this for shawls sometimes. Most of the time, but it's a really good like basic weaving it in technique. So basically you thread your needle, and then you choose like a column of purl stitches, and you will go like just straight up 4 or 5 stitches, but you split the yarn because you don't want your yarn visible on the right side. Remember, you're on the wrong side, you're looking at purl columns, and you split the yarn. So you come underneath, splitting the yarn up 4 or 5 stitches, then go over 1 stitch, and then go down doing the same thing, splitting the stitches, then turn around and go up doing the same thing, and then you can just trim. And for me, that holds really, really well. Sometimes I will go back through like the last bit of working yarn that I just did, but not always. It just kind of depends. And weaving in ends is not an exact science, I will say. It depends on the project, the yarn, and the type of stitches that you have. But that zigzag method tends to do pretty well for most projects. Okay, let me see. I think I have 2 more, and then I'm going to be caught up. I'm so excited. Yes, 1 more actually. 1 more question. Yes, perfect. Okay, last question today is from T. Smith 2010. Hi, which pattern did you use for your Weasley Christmas sweater? It looks so good and I would really like to knit one. Thanks in advance. Well, I read this question before and then I forgot to actually go look at my project, but I have made 3 Weasley sweaters, which are just they're the sweaters from Harry Potter that like Ron's mom knits them. They're really, really cute. Okay, here we go. So here's mine with an N on it. There you go. So here's the Weasley sweater. So the pattern that I use, I'll make sure to link it as well. It is actually just called the Weasley sweater. It's by Allison Hansel, and it is a basic pattern. It's a free pattern, Aran weight. You knit it in, I think, a front, a back piece, and then sleeve. So 4 pieces, and then you seam it. Not my favorite way to knit a sweater, but hey, it works. And then I develop my own chart for the letters so that I could knit the letters in as I was making the front piece. I did one for myself, my husband Kent, and then I also made one for my dog Toaster, used a different pattern of course. So yeah, so that's the pattern. You can go check it out, but I did have to do some of my own work to figure out how to do the letter chart and everything. I prefer knitting it in rather than doing a duplicate stitch on top because I think it looks nicer, but that's up to you. It was really fun to make and I love wearing them like every single Christmas. Somebody trying to call me. Stop trying to call me. I get spam calls like a million times a day. Okay, there you go. That's the sweater pattern. Okay, I am all caught up on questions. Woohoo! So if you have any questions for me, go add them to the Ravelry thread or email me. Let me know you want me to answer them on the podcast, and I will be able to do that now that I'm all caught up. Also, thank you so much to Chantal for helping out. Whenever I'm answering these questions, if you're like, I also have a suggestion for that, don't hesitate to come onto Ravelry into the thread like Chantal did, or go onto the YouTube comments and let us know if you have any expertise on any of the questions that I'm answering. More people is always helpful, for sure. All right, let's go into news. I have some news for this week, a few things to talk about. So the first one is I've got a new vlog. It should be coming out before this podcast. Actually, Kent is in the other room right now editing it. Yay! I'm so excited. We're not seamless yet, but soon, hopefully, after a couple months. My husband and I are going to be working together for Knitty Natty and also This and Nat, my other YouTube channel, working together so that I can start creating even more content because he's going to be taking over the editing. Hey! Toaster! 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 Hey! Toaster! Toaster! Lay back down, buddy. He's barking at Kent, who just got up and started like scraping his dishes into the sink. Anyway, hopefully that barking gets turned down or cut out because that's too loud. But anyway, Kent is working on editing the vlog. It is a really fun vlog. I've never done anything like this before, so I hope you enjoyed it, or if you haven't seen it yet, I hope you enjoy it when you go watch it. It is, I think, titled Finishing 5 Projects and Starting a New One, because that is what I did last week. I sat down and I got out all the things that were almost finished and I bound them off and woven ends and blocked them and just got a bunch of stuff done. And then I went to the yarn store and I got yarn for a new project, which you just saw today, the sorrel sweater. But in the vlog, you'll get to see me like pick it out, do the swatch, go to the yarn store and all of that. So it's a really fun one. I also have some tips and tricks in there, like while I'm finishing things. I actually talk about weaving in ends a little bit. And then I have a giveaway for some yarn from my stash. So definitely go check out that vlog. It's a really, really good one. Totally different than I have ever done before, but it was fun to do. The winner from last week's episode 100, if you heard me at the beginning, this is just a repeat of that information, but I'm going to be announcing it next week in episode 102 because I want to give you a week to enter that giveaway. Now it's closed, so I will have already pulled the winner by the time you're seeing this, but since I'm recording on Tuesday, I want to give everyone the 2 more days, and I'm going to draw a winner on Thursday and I'll announce it for next week. That's a big prize, so that's going to be a really, really good one. Coming up next week, the new video is going to be a vlog from the Brooklyn yarn crawl. So you'll get to see a little bit of me going to one of the yarn stores in Brooklyn in the vlog from this past week. But next week, I'm going to show you all 4 shops that Kent and I went to in Brooklyn on the Brooklyn yarn crawl, plus all the yarn that I got. I got a ton of yarn. I'm not gonna show it here. You're gonna have to go to the vlog and see all of that. I went a little bit crazy, but I had a lot of fun. It was really, really cool because I got to see so many different yarns that I've never seen before. So I had a lot of fun. So that's coming up. 2 more things, lots of news today. Private lessons are returning on May 3rd. That is a Monday, May 3rd. I will be doing private lessons again. These are virtual private lessons on Zoom. They're for anything knit and crochet. You can book them for half an hour to an hour or longer. some of the things that I've done so far with people, we have worked on socks. We have worked on like basic knitting stitches. I helped somebody get like a sweater started, and I think something else. We did like several things in one lesson, but basically you can sign up for the block of time, and that time is yours. I'll communicate with you beforehand to see what it is you want to work on. Plus you'll put it in when you sign up too. I'll have the scheduling link down below. But you let me know what you want to work on ahead of time, so that if I need to do any prep, like if we're going to work on a sock, I can make sure I have a sock ready to go, stuff like that. And then during the Zoom lesson, you will see my face and my hands so that I can show you the different things. And then at home, you can work on it on your own, watching me. And it's a live, real time. You get to ask me all kinds of questions, and it's really, really great. So while it's not the same as going into your local yarn shop, because then you can actually be next to somebody, it is the closest that we can get to each other to being like a live side-by-side lesson, and it's a lot of fun. So those are going to be coming starting in May, on May 3rd. The link will be down below, and you can go and sign up for, I'll have several different times throughout the week to sign up, and then they'll just kind of like I'll kind of like post them week by week, and I'll tell you on Instagram like, hey, I've got more times to sign up. If you don't see a time that works for you, because at the beginning I'm just going to do some daytime ones just as I kind of figure out my schedule and everything, just let me know. If you're like, hey, you know what, I work every day until like 6 p.m. Is it possible to do one in the evening or on the weekend? Like, let me know, and eventually I will have more options as well. Just email me. Okay, last one. I now have an Amazon storefront. I finally figured out how to do it just today. So I am working on putting new things in there. But I have an Amazon storefront, which just means that if you're curious about like something that I use for knitting, or like knitting tools, anything like that, and it's possible to get it on Amazon, you can go to my storefront and look at all my favorites. So I'll have like needles that I like to use on there, accessories that I like to use on there. I'll even have my little, what's it called? Flippy, which is like the thing I use to prop up my book while I'm knitting. I love that. All of that will be on there, but I'm gonna be working on it and just like adding stuff. I do have to let you know that as an Amazon associate, I do earn from qualifying purchases. I had to look at the right verbiage for that. I do earn from qualifying purchases, but if you go to my Amazon storefront, you'll find all the things that I love to use. Who does not love Amazon? Seriously, I order from it like every single day. Okay. Let's talk about life. This past week, we really, just like the week before, we've been getting settled into our house. We have like one last thing that we're waiting on, our area rug, and then we'll get to put our whole living room together, and then our house will be like just hanging pictures and TVs away from being completely settled in, which is so nice. I'm so ready to be settled. Our bedroom is looking pretty good. I've got my yarn all set up, my desk all set up, obviously our bed is set up, and that tour is going to be coming in the next few weeks. I just have so many other vlog videos that I want to get out before then. So that's been really, really good. We went to a restaurant and got Texas barbecue this weekend. One of our new friends that we met took us there, and it was really good. We got to have some brisket. Already missed it. Lots of really good sides. I was surprised that they had something quite authentic in Texas. Actually, one of the people that worked there had just moved up from Dallas in February, which is so funny. It's like, how did you end up working at the one place that has like Texas barbecue? Like, it's so funny. We also have some fun plans coming up this weekend, but you'll have to wait and see. If you want to see what we're doing, I'm excited. We have a reservation for something. Make sure you're following me on my personal Instagram at all of this and that, because I will be sharing that over there. Okay, make sure before I talk about the last thing. All right, so last thing, bringing me joy. I feel like I haven't brought this in a few podcasts because, you know, the past few months have been so stressful, and it's like, when things are so stressful, sometimes there's not always room for like appreciation of the small things. And like now that things are more of a routine, I feel like I can finally appreciate stuff again and relax a little bit. So bringing me joy this week is 30 minutes of knitting. I have been copying Kay, the crazy sock lady, and doing my 30 minutes of knitting every morning for a week or two. I think a week or two in between there. I've been mostly working on my socks because I like to read my Kindle at the same time that I am knitting in bed for 30 minutes. It's really great. So I'll get up in the morning, get ready, take Toaster out, we walk around the block, then I come back in, I start my coffee, get my breakfast, my vitamins and everything, and I go get back in bed, set my 30-minute timer, and I read, eat my breakfast, drink my coffee, and knit for 30 minutes, and it's just like the best way to start the day. It's the little things that, you know, when I was working full-time as a teacher, that was possible to do, but it would have felt like rushed. And so just getting to relax and get to do that is not lost on me. I'm so excited and grateful that this is like the new life that I get to have, and it's absolutely amazing. I'm trying to absorb it all and take it all in and just appreciate everything. So that's bringing me joy this week. All right, you guys, don't forget to check out the vlog, check out the private lessons, another vlog coming next week, so much fun stuff coming your way. Oh, and the Amazon storefront. I think that's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye.